What happens when you find and figure out who your ideal or best fit customer or client is? Well, in this episode of the podcast, we're actually going to talk about it. We're going to talk about who is your best customer, because it's probably the thing that will make everything else about your marketing and selling easier. Hey, I'm Dean Seddon, founder of Maverrik, and this is the Expert in Demand podcast. Thank you for joining me if this is your first visit. Today, it's me on my own. I've got some guests coming up, but I wanted to share from my own experience, both working with clients, but also in my own business, about my struggle with choosing and finding my ideal customer. And if you know me, if you don't, it's really important, and I preach about it a lot, that you have to know who your ideal customer is. Not just because it's a nice thing to do, but because it really does make everything else easier. My first business failed because I did not know who I was for. And because of that, I tried lots of different offers, lots of different things, lots of different marketing tactics. And fundamentally, I couldn't build a sustainable pipeline. I couldn't build a flow of leads for my first business. And so I ran out of clients, then I ran out of money, and then I moved back in with my parents. Now, my second business, where I designed it around one customer, one type of customer, and it was a printing business for basically religious organizations, Christian organizations. Yeah, so I designed a printing business for Christian organizations, and I actually did sell that business. I didn't make mega money or anything like that, but I did sell it to somebody, and it worked because the messaging was so clear, because I'd understood who the customer was. So we created a business, created a website, marketed it in all the right places. We knew how to market it, what they were looking for. We had seasonal trends on buying printing around major Christian calendar events. So it really did work, because I understood that my customer was actually church ministers and churches. And so my marketing, everything I did could be focused towards churches. And it was a small market. It wasn't a scalable market, but in the UK, it was a small market. It did reasonably well. I sold it and went off to do other stuff. The reason why that was easier to market was because I understood who I was marketing to. And I meet a lot of people who can say, well, use my business example, my second business. By no means the most successful business I've ever built. It was way easier than the first business, my first printing business, where I couldn't make it work because I couldn't get any customers. So just mapping out who your ideal customer is allows you to tailor how you present your products, how you position your products, how you and where you market, the language you use in your market, your message, all comes out of that one decision of who is my customer. Now, I took the lessons from my first business and improved it in my second business, by no means perfect. But in my third business, Maverrik, I took that to a whole other level and scaled that to 2 million in revenue, which is still not a huge business, but it's way, way bigger than the other business, because I could focus my efforts. So I looked at who's got the problem I solve, because a lot of people have the problem that you solve. I looked at how big of a problem was it for them. I looked at things like their buying decisions. How quick are they at making decisions? And in my current business, Maverrik, they can be relatively quick decisions. I looked at, do they have buying decision authority on their own? And the majority of my ideal customers at Maverrik do. And I started to map all of those things out about who my ideal customer was, so that then I could position all of my effort, all of my marketing, my copy, everything I do to line up with who's the best customer. Did that mean that I was excluding other people buying? When I run my Christian printing business, my church printing business, did that mean that I was excluding other people from buying from me. No, but I set up my marketing, set up what I was doing in my business, so it was preference towards my best fits. Preference toward my best fits. So that what they would resonate with it, they would get the value of it, and they would buy. And if I got other people, and I got some Christian charities buying from me. I got some people like that buying from me. Even down in Maverrik, although we work a lot with sales teams, business owners, and marketing teams, I sometimes get HR teams come and approach me and ask to work with us. I don't plan for that because they want to use Recruiter and different features, but I can teach it, I can guide them, I can help them. But they come to us, they're not ideal, but they come to us and we'll take them on. You see, I'm about getting my message right for the people I want. If other people come along that are, a good project, I like the work that they're proposing, I'll take it on. We're not talking here about being very, very ultra picky niche. We're talking about understanding who your best fit customer is. And that's about, some educated guesses, some theories, some hypothesis. It's also about looking at your past trends. Who have you worked with before? Who was the best fit for you before? Who did you enjoy working with? Who was the most profitable? Those kind of things that you've had from your past experiences, customer database, things like that. Look at the markets and where you think the opportunities are. I map it out, write it all down. But that's just a theory at that point. I've got some past data from my business. I've got some educated guesses or theories about who my best fit customer is, and I can form an opinion at that point. And then I just need to validate my opinion that there's enough of them out there, that there's demand, all of those kind of things. I've met a lot of people who've designed services and designed products, and I say, who's it for? And they look a bit wishy-washy. And then what they're trying to do is basically, I've built something and now I've got to try and make it fit. What we should be doing is going, who's got the problem? Who are the people? Now let's build a solution for them, the other way around. But we often lead with what we want to do. And, we can help people solve problems, map out who our best fits are. Now we need to test it. So my first test I would do, if you're going to pick a target market to go after, the first test is, can you find them? Can you find them? Do those people actually exist? Sales Navigator's great for that on LinkedIn. Reddit's great for that. Google search. You can use AI, but sometimes AI might not necessarily give you a clear answer, or it might say they are there. You've got to be able to get access to them. Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Can you find them easily on those channels? Because if you want to get more customers, you're going to need to be able to identify them on the platforms and in a volume and quantity that will support the growth of your business. You got to look at, okay, let's say I do want to go for depressed karate instructors. Can I find karate instructors on the internet in volume? Not because we're going to do a volume approach, but can I find them in a concentrated place? Karate tutors. Can I find them anywhere? That's probably a Facebook thing. It could be an Instagram thing, but it's probably there's probably a Facebook group there. Yeah. I can't find bored or depressed karate trainers or tutors, but I can find karate tutors. And I don't know why I picked the karate tutors example, but that's what you want to look for. Can I find that best fit client in a quantity somewhere on the internet? That means you've got the ability to reach them. I work with somebody who has a best fit client, which is so obscure, you can't find them on the internet. Does it mean they're not on the internet? Of course they're on the internet, but I can't find them. I can't find them in a quantity, which makes the business very, very difficult. It means you have to rely on things like ads. It means you have to rely on very niche publications and very niche communities. It's much more difficult. So can you find them? Then you need to validate that they've actually got the pain. So this is where Reddit and stuff like that becomes really useful, because on Reddit you can search for people asking about those questions. This is where Google becomes useful, because you can search to see if anybody else is talking about it. But you've got to kind of dig in and see, can I find evidence that this problem exists? and that these people have it in online. This means that we're not reliant on our biases, our personal opinions, what we think. We're actually looking for evidence that these people that we're going to go after, that we can find, have those problems. Reddit's my go-to. And I'm not looking for 10,000 people talking about the problem. The way the internet works is if half a dozen of people are talking about it, that means there's probably a couple of thousand thinking about it. And that's all we need to think about. Is there enough around there to give us an indication that this is a widespread problem? So Reddit's very good. Answer the Public's very good for this, looking on Answer the Public. You can use ChatGPT and Claude, but you just want to make sure and be careful to sense check that it's not telling you what you want to hear. Quora can be good, but you're just trying to validate those people have that problem and are trying to solve it. This is probably not for today's podcast, but one of the other mistakes I see people make a lot is their solution is heavier than the problem. In other words, the fix is more complicated, more painful, more awkward, more difficult than actual just living with the problem. So you have to create a lighter solution. And that's why you really need to understand the customer, because if you don't, you could create a solution that's actually more hard work than living with the problem. So we've gone through just step one here. We've gone through who we've worked with in the past, our past experiences. We've gone through and put some theories together and looked online to see if those theories are out there, tested those theories. Then we've tried to validate them, going, can we find those people? Do they have that problem, by using forums? Then the third part about this is now we've got to get in proximity to them. So on LinkedIn, that means connecting with them. On Instagram, that means hanging around in their communities. And we've got to think about how do we start to use their language and start to add value into their world. What are the tactical day-to-day things that they would find valuable so that they want to hang around you? To get your message out there, you have to build a community, or you have to develop access to those people. That could be, connecting on LinkedIn, but you've got to build up that awareness you exist. You've got to build up that trust so that they consider you. So that means, getting in proximity to them. So that might mean going and joining Facebook groups and literally contributing to those communities. It might mean growing your network and start sharing stuff. Might join a LinkedIn group. But you've got to find and get in proximity to them. That is kind of critical to your success, being in proximity. That, some companies will use ads, some companies will connections, some people will join groups. But if you're trying to do it online, there's only a few ways to stay in proximity. And by proximity, I mean that you're in their world, they're in yours, you've got access to them. And it is groups, followers and following and connecting. Facebook friends as well. So join the groups in Facebook, build connection, and literally friend request them. So you've got access to that group. Without those things, it's very difficult to scale a business. Know your customer, know who your best fit customer is, validate that they're a market to go after, get in proximity to them, and then you need to understand their language, how they think about the problem, how they talk about the problems that they have, so that when you write and draft your messaging, your content, you're actually speaking to the things that are going on in their world. This is what really makes marketing and selling easier. If you've tried lead magnets, they didn't work. You've tried ads, they didn't work. You've tried posting content, it didn't work. You've tried outreach, it didn't work. It's usually the message that's the problem. Like 9 times out of 10, if somebody's trying everything and it's not working, it's the message. And then you roll that up and go, okay, you can't build a message without knowing who you're talking to. If the offer's not converting, it's the message. And the message is based on who. So fundamentally, we think about it as like product and then who to go after. It's the other way around. Who am I going after? What's their problem? Build the message, build the offer, and then deploy the tactics. So I see this all the time. It's a hard one to get over. Some people really, really don't get how pivotal. In fact, I had a conversation with somebody the other day, And they said, I've tried Facebook ads, I've tried Facebook content, I've tried posting on LinkedIn, I've tried Twitter, I've tried Instagram, I've tried funnels. None of it's working. And I said, do you know what? They're all tactics. Platforms are neutral. Platforms have no magic. There's no special magic on LinkedIn. It's the message and the people. The message and the people. And so I had to say to them, I said, the problem is the message. Your message is muddled. Why was it muddled? Because they did not know who they were talking to. The picture they had in their mind was actually 3 different people. It was 3 different buyers, 3 different ideal customers in their mind. So they had 3 different ideal customers in their mind, all same problem, but slightly shows up in a slightly different way. So that then trickled down into their message. So their message was kind of like a mishmashed message of 3 different people, which then went into their landing page, into their Facebook, into their LinkedIn, into their ads. And guess what? None of it worked. So the most important thing in your business, if you want to make it easy to sell what you do, easy to scale, easy to, more profit, all of that kind of stuff, it starts with knowing who is my customer and can I get access to them? And then going getting the access. Your message, your offer, everything about your success comes down to who is my best fit customer or client.